Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Find out more later on. Hey, 42 here. Your body is a finely tuned machine, honed by untold generations of evolution to be perfectly adapted to survival in the environment here on Earth. Or at least that's what you've been led to believe. The reality is rather different. It's easy to think that evolution by natural selection, given enough time, should produce perfection. But is your body really all that perfect? I'm not talking about bingo wings or beer bellies here. Lockdown's taken its toll on all of us. I mean that you, watching this video, have body parts that, to put it mildly, make no sense whatsoever. Don't believe me? According to YouTube, about 85% of the people watching this video will be human males. If you happen to be one of them, let me ask you a question. How much use have you gotten out of your nipples in the last couple of years? I'm going to go ahead and guess not a lot. Well, not unless you happen to be into some fairly niche fetishes anyway. Belly buttons are another example. They don't do anything, they're just vaguely disgusting lint repositories. And this rabbit hole goes a lot deeper than nipples and navels. Men have nipples because we were all female in the earliest stages of development in the womb, and our belly buttons are essentially our first scars, marking the site where our umbilical cords once plugged us into our mothers like weird fleshy petrol pumps. These useless body bits are developmental byproducts that exist thanks to the way we human beings are made. But not all of our pointless parts can be explained away by how we came into the world. Some, known as vestigial structures, are evolutionary leftovers that tell us really interesting things about the weird and wonderful creatures we used to be long before we were human. Vestigial structures are adaptations that were once beneficial to our ancestors, but no longer serve their original purpose in humans, and often serve no purpose whatsoever. That might sound a bit abstract, so let me give you an example. Now, if you love traveling like I do, then you'll love the fastest and easiest VPN, Surfshark. Did you know Surfshark also helps you to avoid price discrimination based on your location? So you can actually save money on plane tickets and car rentals whilst traveling. Surfshark runs on any device anywhere, and it's packed full of features, such as industry-leading uncrackable encryption, IP and DNS leak protection, an internet kill switch if your VPN drops out, and 24/7 customer support. By using Surfshark VPN, you can stay anonymous and secure online. Personally, I use Surfshark to watch Netflix content from other countries, such as the US. That's usually blocked here in the UK. It's really easy, all I have to do is switch over my location settings, and there I have it, access to all my favourite programs. Surfshark maintains a strict no-logs policy, and their network of 3,200 servers in over 65 countries runs completely on RAM, so they can't log your data even if they wanted to. By using the code 42, you will benefit from an 83% discount plus 3 extra months for free. All you have to do is click the special link in the description below. Don't miss out. As you've probably noticed, you don't have whiskers, unless you're into yet another niche fetish. You might also have noticed that almost all other mammals do. Whiskers are basically hands for your face. In most animals, they're there to feel the world in order to help them with navigation, particularly at night, when the eyes alone can't be relied upon. Despite the fact humans have never had whiskers, about a third of you watching this video will have muscles in your upper lips, whose sole purpose it is to allow you to consciously manipulate the whiskers that you don't have. In humans, these vibrissae capsular muscles, as they're known, are essentially an evolutionary relic. An invisible reminder that somewhere in the distant past, long before modern humans existed, one of our ancestors had whiskers, and the ghost of that long-lost evolutionary adaptation still lurks in our DNA. In case you're wondering, I'm fairly sure I don't have vibrisal capsular muscles, because I've spent all morning trying to navigate using my mustache, and got absolutely nowhere. I had to give up after almost getting run over on the M62. Vibrisal capsular muscles aren't the only useless muscles in our bodies. In fact, there are examples pretty much everywhere, in your torso, arms, legs, even in your head. Try and wiggle your ears. Does anything happen? Most likely not. Which is odd, because our ears come pre-packaged with a set of free muscles designed to move them around. Lots of other mammals use those muscles to physically point their ears towards unfamiliar sounds, allowing them to better pinpoint the approach of potential threats. In humans, they hardly function at all. We make up for our lack of ear flexibility by having a good range of movement in our necks along the horizontal plane, something many animals with mobile ears, like dogs, cats, and horses, don't have. But our bodies still go to the trouble of growing those useless muscles regardless. Interestingly, about 1 in 5 people are actually able to use their ear muscles to do an admittedly fairly pathetic amount of ear wiggling, but there's no appreciable benefit to it. It's just another nod to our evolutionary past. Even more interestingly, not only do we have vestigial ear muscles that don't do anything, we also have a load of neural circuitry to go along with them. A 2015 study found that when humans hear an unexpected noise, our ear muscles activate in a futile attempt to orient our ears towards the sound. It's thought that these muscles and the neural circuits that support them have been vestigial in humans and our ancestors for around 25 million years. Vestigial traits and structures aren't just limited to obscure muscle groups. Take your wisdom teeth, for example. Have you ever wondered why we gain an extra set of teeth as teenagers that serve no purpose other than to get stuck, cause infections, and generally wreak havoc in our mouths? It isn't as though most of us have any trouble chewing our food before they come along. Our ancestors, on the other hand, did have trouble chewing their food. Early man had a diet that was rather more demanding on the teeth than what we're used to today, including large amounts of nuts, seeds, and tough, gamey meat. As a result, wear and tear on the teeth was significant. A lack of functioning gnashers could be life-threatening to early man, so we evolved a third set of molars to share the load. But over the last 12,000 years or so, 2 things have happened. Our diets have changed, and the human jaw has steadily shrunk. These days, wisdom teeth are kind of a liability. So much so that some scientists believe evolution is slowly doing away with them altogether. Some populations, like indigenous Mexicans, have already lost them. By the way, if you've ever fallen on your arse at just the right angle, you'll be well acquainted with your coccyx. It's the part that was burning in agony. Your coccyx is basically the bit right at the base of your spine where your tail used to attach. And in this case, I don't mean that in some distant evolutionary sense. You, watching this video, used to have a tail. All mammals have a tail-like structure during their development in utero. In humans, it's mostly prominent in embryos that are around a month old, disappearing about 4 weeks later. At least, that's what usually happens. In incredibly rare cases, the tail never goes away and has to be surgically removed once the baby's born. Unlike wisdom teeth, we're unlikely to lose our coccyxes. There's a word. Whilst some human vestigial structures no longer have any function whatsoever, our stubby little internal tails still play an active role in our bodies, acting as an anchor point for nearby tendons, ligaments, and muscles. One human vestigial trait you'll probably have seen every time you look in the mirror without ever really noticing it is that strange little membrane in the corner of your eye. It's called the plica semilunaris, And whilst it does still have a use in humans, it helps both to give your eyeballs greater range of movement and in the drainage of tears, it's really just the last fleshy remnant of a nictating membrane, that vaguely disturbing third eyelid found in many birds, reptiles, and a few mammals that provides protection and keeps the eyeballs moist without the need to blink and momentarily lose vision. Again, humans have never had one, but our ancestors did, and it's never quite gone away. As strange as it is to discover our bodies are riddled with these odd vestigial structures, evolutionary fossils that once you notice them seem suddenly so out of place, we actually exhibit several vestigial behaviors too. And if anything, they're even weirder. Take goosebumps, those little lumps that spread over your skin when you're scared or feeling strong emotions. Have you ever wondered why we get them? The answer is, of course, for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Goosebumps are formed when the erector pili muscles, tiny muscles that attach to the base of each hair follicle, contract, causing our body hair to stand on end. In animals with thick fur or feathers, this does two things. In the cold, it traps a layer of air close to the skin, which helps to keep the animal warm. Or, if the animal feels threatened, the resulting puffed up hairstyle, or fur style, makes the animal look larger than it really is, warding off potential predators. Since we humans have lost most of the thick body hair most of our ancestors sported, goosebumps don't actually cause a significant warming effect for us. And whilst I do know a few impressively hairy people, they don't suddenly look noticeably bigger or more imposing when they get scared. Whilst goosebumps don't do anything beneficial for humans, they don't really come with much of a downside either. So there's never really been enough evolutionary pressure for them to disappear, and they've just stuck around, doing bugger all for countless generations. The palmar grasp reflex is another example of vestigial behavior. You know, that adorable thing babies do when they grab your finger as though their life depended on it. In the case of human babies, that reflex is pointless. But for some of our ancestors, whose young would have clung to their mother's fur, as modern primates do, their lives really did depend on it. Despite the fact the palmar grasp reflex is vestigial in humans and serves no benefit, beyond being undeniably cute, it remains remarkably strong. Some newborn babies are able to support their entire body weight whilst hanging by just their fingers. Something that can't be said for plenty of adults. Okay, I think it's about time we talked about the exploding elephant in the room here. The appendix. You've probably been watching this video waiting for me to mention this treacherous little organ, perhaps the most famous vestigial structure in the entire human body. The thing is, it turns out it may not be so vestigial after all. While scientists have long theorized that the appendix is a useless organ whose only aspiration in life is to act like a tiny terrorist and blow itself up when we least expect it, recent research suggests it may have an important use after all, acting as a reservoir for beneficial gut bacteria. If you've ever had the shits, like the proper shits, you'll know what it's like to feel as though you've emptied the entire contents of your body into the toilet bowl. It's thought that after such a, shall we say, clear out, the appendix is able to replenish your gut's supply of gut bacteria. Think of it like a little bottle of Yakult with a really bad temper. Whilst we're on the subject of vestigial structures that might not be so vestigial after all, I should probably point out that, like the appendix, science may eventually prove that some of the other vestigial structures I've mentioned in this video have uses we aren't currently aware of. The human body is incredibly complex, and it isn't always easy to be completely sure exactly what does what. Hence why the appendix was able to sneak under the radar for so long. Speaking of things being incredibly complex, some people believe that humans, and all other animals for that matter, are too elaborate to have been shaped by evolution alone. and that only an intelligent designer, also known by his nickname God, could have created such mind-bogglingly complicated creatures. Vestigial structures and behaviours, however, throw a giant coccyx-shaped spanner in the works of this theory, which is sometimes known as intelligent design. Think about it. If we really were designed by a higher power, why did he, she, or it bother giving us all these odd little adaptations that don't do anything for us, but do something in other animals? So far as I can tell, there are only really two answers to that question. Either we weren't designed from scratch and instead evolved from other creatures over millions of years, or whoever it is that made us did so in such a way that was deliberately designed to trick us into thinking we evolved from other creatures. And if that's the case, it's kind of hard to see what the motive might have been there. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that vestigial traits are an argument that there isn't a God. That's a different question altogether. They're just compelling evidence for evolution, and therefore against any theories that deny evolution. Young Earth creationism, for example. Whatever your beliefs, there isn't necessarily any reason why some form of creator can't coexist with the theory of evolution. That's not an argument I'm trying to make, by the way. It's just interesting to think about. Anyway, the next time you're down the gym and someone tells you that his body is a temple, you might want to politely point out to him that, in reality, his body is actually a graveyard of evolutionary detritus that's full of random bits and pieces that don't really do anything. That should wipe the smug look off his face. Thanks for watching.